mayo@bbc.co.uk. You can text 85058. Box office top 10 this week. At 10, Vacancy.
Which, you know, it's, of all of those ones, it's the least obnoxious, and it at least does some of its job okay, but it runs out of steam in the last quarter.
Tell No One at 9.
Which I like very much, adapted from an American novel which I haven't read, a French adaptation of a story about a man who believes that his wife has died and then 8 years later starts getting emails from beyond the grave. Good twisty thriller, too twisty at the end, but pretty good going.
La Vie en Rose at 8.
You know, a French movie about the short life of Edith Piaf. She only lived 40-something years, but it manages to pretend that World War II didn't happen at all. And Marianne Cotillard gives a real sort of hair, teeth, makeup performance, but doesn't do any of her own singing, which I do think leaves a gap in the middle of the film. I like to see Gary Busey doing his own singing as Buddy Holly, and Val Kilmer, much as I hate him, doing his own singing as Jim Morris. And I know that they say nobody sings like Piaf, but you know, if you're going to make a movie, then take some license.
At 7, it's not a misprint, it really is called Apnea.
So I was at this festival yesterday, they're doing this BAFTA Hitchcock screening, and Jess McConnell ran up to me and said, "That movie that you thought was a spelling mistake, what is it, Apnea?" She said, I've seen it and I've got a review of it, so here it is. Apnea, good boxing, drama, but too much men crying.
And that's it?
That's it. Well, I said keep it brief.
And that's what it was.
It was. We're standing in a field.
If you've seen Apnea and can do better, let us know. Hostel Part 2 at 6.
You know, Eli Roth, spanked, sent to bed, no supper, stop doing it.
Pirates of the Caribbean, 5, okay, we've done that. Yeah. Ocean's 13 at 4.
The mighty acting black hole of Julian Sands. The film is not as bad as Ocean's 12, but it's not as good as Ocean's 11, and it is a bunch of smug, rich people enjoying themselves. At
3, 4, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Which I'm still not sent on, but we've had so many people who are fans of the comic book writing and say, well, it's, you know, it's honourable, it's true to the source material. I don't think that's enough, but apparently if you're a diehard comic book fan of the Fantastic Four, it isn't making any horrible heretical mistakes, but it's just not doing anything else either, and Jessica Alba is rubbish in those films.
And number 3, no, I beg your pardon, number 2, Die Hard 4.0.
It's not terrible, it's just not any good, and it doesn't have any of the substance of any of the previous Die Hard movies. But there is something quite funny about the fact that Bruce has to keep his singlet on, and it is just like a collection of bits that you've seen from other films, but it's, you know, it's still not as bad as Pirates of the Caribbean. Box office number 1, Shrek the Third. I took my kids to see it, and it was pretty much as predicted. You know, they enjoyed it, and the kids the cinema was pretty full, but I think it is totally unmemorable, and I do think that they have run out of steam. And the bad news here is that Shrek the Fourth, or Shrek 4 Pointless, it will be happening in 2010, and I think that is a shame, because I did really feel by the end of Shrek the Third that they'd wrung everything out of it, and there wasn't any more mileage in it. And when you remember just how good the first Shrek was, actually just how good the second Shrek was, we are on a sort of downward spiral from here. So there, 85058 and mayo@bbc.co.uk. That's the top 10. These are new films out this week. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is the 5th, and it turns out the shortest Harry Potter movie. I checked these. Chamber of Secrets, 160 minutes. Goblet of Fire, 157 minutes. Philosopher's Stone, 152 minutes. Prisoner of Azkaban, 142 minutes. And this, 138 minutes.
Good start.
Yeah, so they're reining it in, and it's a weighty tome, because actually the Harry Potter books have got bigger. You know, the first one, just like an ordinary sort of sized thing, but, you know, Christopher Columbus can't rein anything in at all. Directed by David Yates, who is now already signed on for the next one, and he won a BAFTA for Sex Traffic. He directed State of Play. He did Girl in the Cafe, the Richard Curtis thing. So he's a very, very acclaimed TV director, and the job that he's done on this has impressed them so much they've already signed him up for the next one, which I think is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So the plot, and I really hesitate to even start doing the plot, because there's a lot of plot in this film for 138 minutes. At the beginning of the movie, Harry is attacked in the real world, in inverted commas, by Dementors, and he pulls out his wand to save somebody's life. He is then expelled from Hogwarts for pulling out his wand in public, which he's not allowed to do. It's so below you. I'm trying to do the plot. I haven't said a thing. No, but you're smirking in only if you're watching the vodka. Yeah, and the Vipco, fine. And so he's expelled from Hogwarts, but of course he can't be expelled from Hogwarts for long. So then there is a meeting in which he's kind of unexpelled from Hogwarts, but then it turns out that Hogwarts has sort of been taken over by this new character. Dumbledore has sort of been sidelined, and Harry spends the whole of the movie being outcast. outcast, being cut off, being different, being sort of somehow withdrawn from all his friends, and everyone's got it in for him, not least, hello, Jason Isaacs. First criticism of the movie, I wanted more Jason Isaacs, because actually it's a significant but small role. There are several characters who turn up for significant but small appearances. And one of the problems that I have is it feels like an awful lot of business, an awful lot of plot, an awful lot of stuff, but it smacks very slightly of the middle film syndrome. It's rather like the Twin Towers. It's a little bit Star Warsy occasionally, in that, you know, characters with funny names turn up, do a couple of lines and then disappear. And I'm very aware watching it that if you'd read the book, that what the film must be doing is gesturing towards larger passages in the book. Nothing illustrates this better than there is a sequence in which, and in case you haven't read the book, and I know there are some people out there who haven't, including me, a key character, something terrible happens in relation to an arch, right? A big archway. You remember the bit I'm talking about? Yep. Fine. I had no idea what was going on.
Doesn't matter.
No, but it did matter, because apparently in the book, the whole thing about the archway is death, and you step through it, you can casually step through it. Apparently this is very, very important. In the film, not knowing that, I just felt like yet another bit of wand waving had happened, and I didn't get any of the sense of significance that should have happened with this particular character. Now, there are good points. Imelda Staunton absolutely steals the show as Dolores Umbridge.
How hideous is she?
She's like Margaret Thatcher on a broomstick, wearing the, you know, the Wizard of Oz, Wicked Witch of the West hat, and she is just fantastic. I mean, I think she's a great actress anyway, and she's terrific in Vera Drake, but she's just scary as sin, and does everything with this kind of this pink, you know, Jackie Onassis kind of outfit, but really, really uptight, and really, even the moment when she gets Harry to write lines, and he has to write out lines, I must not tell lies, and as he writes them on the page, the words are scratched on the back of his hand. It seems so sadistic. I mean, it seems
in the book that bit goes on and on and on, and they cut it really short, and I was wondering how they're going to do that, because it's basically torturing a kid sequence.
It is, and it's I mean, even in the short version that we have, I mean, it's alarmingly well done, and it's a fairly tough movie, and as some people have pointed out, there's no Quidditch anymore. You don't have Quidditch anymore. Now what you have, the nearest you get to light relief, is snogging. So Harry gets to have his first snog, but rather unfortunately, he has his first snog and then the character disappears. I mean, she's then sort of cast aside. She turns up to snog Harry. There's a great line about how was it wet, she was crying, and then she kind of goes. And for me, I felt that the whole thing, even though it was the shortest Potter movie, felt long, because it felt like a lot of stuff. It felt like a lot of bits. It felt like you've been going and going and going and going and going, but you hadn't actually really got anywhere at the end.
How on earth do you think Helena Bonham Carter got the part of Bellatrix Lestrange as a screaming mad old witch? How do you think?
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? Because, you know, they think, oh, we need somebody.
I think she had to try really hard.
Yeah, someone who's mad as a box of frogs. Is Helena busy? Because she's finished the Wallace and Gromit movie, and
how much did she enjoy that?
She is just cookie, but she's fantastic. I mean, the fact is, Helena Bonham Carter. Who would have ever guessed that person who was so annoying in Room with a View with Julian, Booth, beauty, truth, shut up, would turn into such a fantastic sort of goth icon, and she really has been, and she chews up the cinema. But again, she's on screen for about 3 minutes.
One other thing that that you haven't mentioned, that I think you probably should, and that is, I think it's Daniel Radcliffe's best performance. He really has to act all the way through, as he's not just a boy anymore. I mean, he got very good reviews for Equus, but now he has to carry this film far more than any of the others.
The area in which they've lucked out is that it is amazing that of the three central performers who they cast when they were very young, that they have all three turned out to be decent adult, you know, older, young adult actors, because you really can never predict that sort of thing, and they must be really slapping themselves on the back for having chosen so well. It is true, the performances don't slip. My problem is that I want from the incidental performances is more of them. I needed more Alan Rickman, and he's there so briefly, and yet when he's there, he shines and he reminds you of just how great he was in the first.
There'll be a lot of him in the next one.
Will there?
Yes, there will.
Fine, but I don't want to feel like it's a holding pattern, and I have to confess that I did.